Hi everyone, I hope you are all well. As you may have seen, I am back from my holiday and I've just done a video about my review of Maya Angelou's first book of her 7-book series autobiography, and now I'm here to talk about the book that I've also read whilst I've been away, and I have just I finished it about 35 minutes ago. So I've quickly, as soon as I finished it, I've turned on my laptop, I filmed my first video. I've had to put the lights on now because it's a bit dull in here. But yeah, I've turned on my laptop, filmed my first video, and now I'm here to talk about the other book, which I just finished in 35 minutes ago, and that is The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. Now, first and foremost, I feel like I have been knocked over the head with a sledgehammer with this book. I can't believe I've never read it before. I'm kind of angry at myself that I've never read it before. It's an absolutely extraordinary book. It's unlike any kind of Victorian time any other book produced by a Victorian author that I can think of, although I suppose it kind of would be close to Charles Dickens, and Wilkie Collins and Charles Dickens were good friends. So, okay, it is. I honest to God, I text my sister sent a message to my sister after I finished it, and I just said, I feel like I'm floating on clouds right now, because the ending was just beautiful. So let's talk about what this book is about. In case you haven't seen the video that my sister and I filmed whilst we were in Bath about it, The Woman in White follows a man called Walter Hartgrave. Hartwright, sorry, not Hartgrave, why am I saying Hartgrave? Hartwright, and which is a perfect name. And he is commissioned to teach art to two sisters at a place called Limmeridge House. But the evening before he leaves for Limmeridge House, he's walking home. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. He's walking to London, and he bumps into a woman all dressed in white who's kind of erratic, and she's a bit frantic, and she's desperate to get a cab and get away. And she talks to Walter about Limmeridge House. She knows the place. She knows the family who lived there and everything. And he puts her in a cab and she goes off on her way. And a few minutes later, he's stopped by a man in another cab who asks him if he'd seen a woman all in white, and he says no, because he feels he can't trust them. And what he learned from the woman, that someone was chasing her, she was very afraid, she had to get away, so he says no. And he tells Walter, this man tells him that she has escaped from an asylum. Anyway, time passes, and he just kind of like goes, oh, okay. He gets to Limmeridge House and meets these sisters, Marion and Laura, and is absolutely startled to discover that Laura looks exactly like the woman in white, and she actually meets him all dressed in white, but it's not her who he met. That was a completely different woman. So he's on this kind of mission to find out who the woman in white is. Why do they look similar? What is there a connection? What was she babbling about a baroness and such? And it kind of links also with Laura, with what happens with her in regards to that she and Walter are falling in love, but she's actually in the middle of having her marriage arranged by her half sister Marion and her uncle. And so yeah, there's that which is brought into the mix as well. So it's all about these three, Marion, Laura and Walter, and the woman in white, of course, there's so four, about their life, about the mystery. And it's one of the first thrillers that was ever kind of written. And it is absolutely extraordinary. I had watched the BBC drama when it aired about a month and a half ago, or maybe 2 months ago now. And I knew also the radio play, which I listened to, but not for a long time. So I couldn't remember specifics about the story, but I knew loosely what it was about. Anyway, so I watched the drama, absolutely fell in love with the drama, as did my sister. My sister then read the book straight away, but I had to wait until my June picks to pick it out of from my books, and we talked about it in Bath, and it's one of those books that's kind of, when you see the classic section, it's always there, but nothing's ever made me go up and grab it. And that's a real shame, because I've been missing out on something truly extraordinary. And it kind of makes me want to now just look in like the classic sections or any other kind of sections and that, and pick up books that I never would have thought of picking up, and having a go and seeing what they're like. Not to say that I never take risks with books, because I do. With as there's books that I've reviewed on here where I've picked it up as a gamble and I've either loved it or I've either hated it, which is what happens. Sometimes you love them, sometimes you hate them. But other authors who I may have gone about or something, or gone, oh no, I don't really think about them, but I've not actually read their works. I should be more open to read them. That's what I've learned from reading this book. But Wilkie Collins was an extraordinary man. I mean, reading about him online, how he had this unorthodox relationship with a couple of women. He was very when you read this book, he has got so many wonderful characters. It's even the dark, horrible bad guys are wonderfully constructed, wonderfully written. But his women are beyond extraordinary. They are just warriors. Marion is phenomenal. An absolute phenomenal person, a phenomenal character. How I didn't really know about her before, it's just driving me nuts. And she is so strong, she is so resilient, she can see kind of what's going on with Laura, and she will do anything it takes to get her sister back from this depth of hell that she's been shoved into by this arranged marriage. She is pure. She loves wholeheartedly, and yeah, she doesn't take no for an answer. She won't take that crap. She is extraordinary. Why? She's like a feminist icon. She should be a feminist. Why isn't she a feminist icon that people can name just when they think about books, that she's not one of those names that is up there as being the most extraordinary female character ever in literature? She is just wonderful. When the drama was first released by the BBC, when the first episode had aired, the Telegraph published an article, a review of it, and the title said it was something like, finally a drama for the Me Too generation. And it's true, given the psychological manipulation, coercive control, which is a term that we use now, that was only created in like the 60s or 70s or something, is all in this book, and this was written over 100 years ago. It's just extraordinary, and it throws it straight in your face that this is not something new. This is something that's been going on for a very, very long time. Wilkie Collins was so, I think because he had such a kind of liberal view of the world and relationships and such, he wrote about really strong female characters, and every single one of them, even like the horrible characters, even like Madame Fosco and Mrs. Catterick, Anne Catterick's mother, are not the nicest of people, but they're extraordinary. And the way that he constructs them, it's, everything about them. Every single little detail about them, even without having to know details about them, by the way that they hold themselves, their grace, their poise, the way they walk, the way they get irritated by things, all these little details. He gives you so much information. The book itself is written where it's a first-person perspective events from multiple characters, and so it fits back and forth. So it'll say like, this section is from the perspective of Walter Hartwright, and then this section is from the perspective of Marion, based on her diary entries, stuff like that. So you're flipping back and forth between various people. And at one point, it was absolutely amazingly written, set in a graveyard. About 2/3 of the way through the book, you get the end of the story, well, not of the story, but of a massive section that's been going on, and it hits you like bang, really hits you, and that I was just floored by that scene. And then it's kind of the three sections of this period. So you've got the beginning, the middle, and the end. So you'll hit whammed with the end from Walter's perspective. Then you have Walter's perspective being told by Marion the beginning, and then from Marion's perspective of the beginning sort of to a bit into the middle, and then from Laura's perspective from the beginning all the way through to the end. So you're kind of jumping, as it were, in this section between the various characters and how they fit and how everything weaves together. But it really works. It's extraordinary. It's kind of like, it's like a massive spider web. He takes you for one character in their bit to tell a story over here, and then he'll go over here, and then slowly you realise that what he's doing is that he's making art, and he's bringing them all together to link, and the link reveals this absolutely extraordinary image. And the image is the final scene, and the final scene is wonderful. Wonderful. I love it. I had so many places marked in this of things to read, and looking at it, I'm not going to read anything from it, because the specific ones I really wanted to read, because they absolutely blew me away when I was reading them, reveal stuff to do with the plot and various things that happen in twists and turns, and I don't want to spoil it for you guys, so I'm not going to read anything from this book this time, but I really encourage you to read this. This is the kind of literature that should be on the top of feminist book reads. It really should do, and yet it's one of those books you see on the classic section that it's always there, but I've never gone to pick it up. Nothing's encouraged me to, and as I said, I feel awful for that. So now I feel more encouraged to go to bookshelves and look at books that usually I would just glance past because it doesn't stand out, it doesn't appeal to me. I'm more open to do that and see where that takes me, and I'm really excited because of that. So thank you, Wilkie Collins, for writing this extraordinary feminist piece, for giving us Emma and Laura and Walter and Anne, absolutely extraordinary character Anne, who I absolutely love. Thank you for giving women a voice in a time when they didn't have one. Thank you for making warriors. Thank you for this gift. I'm so thankful for you for writing this book. It was wonderful. Now, as I mentioned, there was the recent drama that the BBC did, The Women Right there. Now that I have read the book, I kind of agree with my sister, where the book's extraordinary, so that's like 5-star. When we were talking in our previous video, my sister said that's like 5-star, the book, and the drama is like 4-star because of various alterations that they did. For me, I feel kind of the same way, but I still really do love the drama. But I think it's that because I saw that first and I've watched it over and over again. I can't help but love. I suppose it's kind of like watching a version of Pride and Prejudice or something and have seen it over and over again, and then while later you read the book, you can't help but still love the alterations and such that they made in the dramas or the film or whatever. And I feel that same with the Woman in White. I would put the drama at like a 4.5 for me because I still really loved it, but the book is definitely a 5. This is wonderfully acted, wonderfully cast, especially Count Fosco, because he's actually played by an Italian actor. It's not someone putting on a fake Italian accent and sounding stupid. It's wonderfully presented, beautifully shot. The cinematography, is exquisite. I really strongly recommend this. The other dramatisation I really strongly recommend is actually a BBC Radio one with Toby Stephens playing the role of Walter. So that is The Woman in White that the BBC did. You can buy it on CD. You can also buy it as download, iTunes, all that lot. And it's Toby Stephens, Julia Aubrey, Jeremy Clyde, and Edward Petherick. So that is really good. I've listened to this as soon as they started showing this. I started listening to this on a loop. I started listening to the musical on a loop as well, constantly. I listened to these two, one after the other, pretty much back to back for a week. I pretty much know these word for word now because of it. And yeah, there's a musical as well. Now the musical is I was going to say very different. Okay, it's not very different, but some parts, some sections, whole sections are completely rewritten, completely changed in order to make it work for the theatre, to give it more of a fluidity than the book. It's, even though they do have those various changes, I still like it. It's not too bad of a musical. I think it's that kind of thing you just have to see what you think. But yeah, there are events that have changed quite significantly in the musical. But of course, the radio play, as always, the BBC radio plays, they are really faithful to the book, and this really is. And the drama, okay, they make some changes, but I still love it. So I would recommend all of these. Oh dear, nearly lost the disc. But I really strongly recommend this extraordinary feminist piece of work written by a man in an age when women didn't have a voice, were felt to be inferior, were considered really nothing apart from, they're just there to marry and have children. This is just exquisite piece of writing. You must read it if you're able to. Okay, so there's my thoughts on The Woman in White. Have you read this book? I'd love to know what you think. Leave me a comment in the comments box below, or give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Entirely up to you, I'll let you decide. And I'll be back shortly to announce which book I'm going to be reading next, and also show you the books that are going into the jars, which I bought on my holiday, and I bought quite a few. So I'll be back shortly. Alright guys, bye.